Dr. Kong Teho stood alone in the cold chamber, staring at the massive black structure that had consumed 3 months of his life. The artifact was 12 meters tall, smooth as glass, and covered in symbols that seemed to move when he looked away. Outside, the red Martian landscape stretched endlessly under a dim sun. His team had gone to sleep hours ago. They were tired, frustrated, and running out of ideas. Every scan came back empty. Every test revealed nothing. The artifact just sat there, silent and mysterious, like it was mocking them. Teho rubbed his face with both hands. He was exhausted. His eyes burned from staring at computer screens. His back ached from bending over equipment. But he could not stop thinking about the artifact. What was it? Who made it? Why was it here? He walked closer and pressed his hand against the surface. Protocol said he should wear gloves, but he was alone and too tired to care. The material felt cool and smooth, almost alive under his palm. "Come on," he whispered in Korean. "Just tell me something. Anything." The symbols continued their slow dance across the black surface. Teho let out a tired laugh. Earlier that day, his colleague Dr. Park Hygen had joked that maybe they should just ask the thing to wake up. The memory made him smile, despite his frustration. He patted the artifact like it was a stubborn old computer. "Oh, what the hell? Wake up already." Everything changed in an instant. Light exploded from inside the artifact. Brilliant white light poured to the black material like lightning trapped in stone. Teho stumbled backward, his heart pounding hard against his ribs. The entire chamber filled with blinding brightness. He raised his arm to shield his eyes. "What did I do?" he shouted. The symbols stopped moving. They locked into place and began glowing with an intensity that hurt to look at. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Teho could see his breath forming small clouds in the air. Then he heard the voice. It did not come from outside. It formed directly inside his head, like someone had opened a door in his mind and walked right in. The sensation was terrifying and completely unnatural. Genetic marker identified. Bloodline authentication required. You will provide lineage continuation. Teho pressed himself against the wall. "What? No, wait. I don't understand." A holographic screen appeared in the air between him and the artifact. It showed complex spirals that he recognized immediately. DNA sequences. His DNA sequences. The artifact was scanning his genetic code. Compatible sequence detected. Probability, 78.4%. You carry the echo. "What echo?" Teho demanded, trying to keep his voice from shaking. "What are you talking about?" "I am Keeper of Echoes, final repository of the architects. You have awakened me. Protocol demands inheritance transfer." The hologram changed. Now it showed images that made Teho's mind struggle to understand what he was seeing. Massive cities with impossible architecture. Beings that looked almost human, but not quite right. Civilizations rising and falling across worlds he had never seen. These were the architects. They had built this thing. Your genetic code contains markers placed by the architects 2.7 million Earth years ago. You are descended from the prepared lineage. You will fulfill the covenant. "I never agreed to any covenant." Teho shouted at the artifact. "I just touched you. It was a joke. I was being sarcastic. Humor protocols, unclear. Genetic imperative, absolute. You'll provide your bloodline or this world will be corrected." The chamber grew even colder. Frost began forming on the metal equipment around the room. Teho felt ice settle into his bones. This was not a request or suggestion. This was a demand backed by technology millions of years more advanced than anything humanity had ever created. His mind raced. This was impossible. How could his DNA contain markers from 2.7 million years ago? What did it mean to provide his bloodline? And what did this thing mean by correcting the world? "I need time to think," Teho said, forcing himself to sound calmer than he felt. "I need to understand what you want. Compliance window, 72 Earth hours. After this period, corrective measures will commence. You may not leave this chamber until you acknowledge the terms." Behind him, the chamber entrance sealed shut with a grinding sound like stone scraping against stone. The door was now a solid wall of the same black material as the artifact. Tejo was trapped. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold floor. His hands were shaking as he pulled out his communicator. He had to contact Earth. He had to warn them. He had just awakened something ancient and powerful, something that claimed ownership over his DNA, his future, and possibly the fate of every human being alive. He stared at the artifact, at the glowing symbols that promised knowledge and threatened destruction in the same breath. All because of a stupid joke. The emergency signal reached Earth within minutes. Tejo sat on the floor of the sealed chamber, watching the artifact holographic screen as chaos erupted across every government and scientific organization on his home planet. "Explain what you want from me," Tejo said to the Keeper, trying to keep his voice steady. The artifact displayed new images. Genetic sequences appeared next to pictures of strange hybrid creatures. They looked partially human, but also something completely different. Their eyes were too large, their proportions slightly wrong, their skin marked with patterns that seemed to shift and glow. The architects created seed vaults across 47 galaxies. Each requires a bridge, a compatible host whose descendants will carry forward our genetic memory and knowledge. You will reproduce. Your offspring will be modified. They will become the new architects. Tejo felt his stomach turn. You want me to have children so you can change them into something else? That is biological slavery. Terminology, irrelevant. Destiny, inevitable. Your species carries our markers. You were designed for this purpose. Outside the chamber, Tejo could hear banging on the sealed entrance. Through his communicator, he heard Dr. Park Hyojin's desperate voice. "Tejo, can you hear me?" The artifact released some kind of energy field. "We cannot cut through the door. Are you okay?" "I am fine for now," Tejo replied, "but we have a serious problem." The Keeper displayed a new hologram. Mars appeared, surrounded by a massive swarm of tiny machines, billions of microscopic robots floating in space around the red planet. "Nay-night deployment. Ready. If you refuse, I will correct humanity's genetic deviations by force. 8.2 billion humans will be modified to acceptable parameters. Compliance is preferable. Force is acceptable." Tejo felt ice flood through his veins. "You are threatening to change every human being on Earth." Terminology, incorrect. Evolutionary guidance. The architects showed mercy to lesser species. I continue their work. Through the communicator, Tejo could hear the emergency meeting on Earth. Admiral Lee Soo-hyun of the United Earth Defense Force was shouting about launching missiles at the artifact. Dr. Han Minji, a famous xenobiologist, was begging everyone to slow down and negotiate. Politicians screamed about protecting human sovereignty, while scientists desperately wanted access to the advanced alien technology. Tejo listened to all of them arguing and realized that the fate of 8 billion people now rested on his shoulders. One wrong choice and humanity might be destroyed or enslaved. One right choice and maybe they could survive. "Why me?" Tejo asked quietly. "Out of 8 billion humans, why did you choose me?" "Your genetic sequence matches required parameters. 78.4% compatibility. Highest detected in 300,000 Earth years. You spoke the activation phrase. You touched the interface. You are chosen." "I was joking when I said wake up." Tejo protested. "It was a sarcasm. I did not mean it seriously. Humor protocols, undefined. Result, identical. Your intention is irrelevant. Your action is absolute." The hologram showed Earth now, the beautiful blue and white planet floating in the darkness of space. Tejo thought about everyone down there, his family and soul, his friends from university, children playing in parks, old people drinking coffee in cafes, all of them living their lives, completely unaware that an ancient alien machine was threatening to transform them into something else. Through the communicator, Dr. Park Hyojin spoke again. Her voice was firm and determined. "Tejo, listen to me carefully. Whatever this thing says, do not agree to anything. We are working on a solution. We will find a way to get you out and stop this thing. You have 71 hours, Tejo told her. After that, the Keeper says it will start changing humanity by force. We will figure something out, Hyojin promised. Just stay alive and keep talking to it. Learn everything you can. Teho looked up at the massive artifact towering above him. Its surface still glowed with those strange shifting symbols. Inside its ancient databases were millions of years of knowledge and technology, secrets that could transform human civilization. But at what cost? Keeper, Teho said slowly, if I agree to your terms, what exactly will happen to my children? They will be enhanced. Superior, they will carry the genetic memories of the architects. They will have extended lifespans, psionic abilities, access to knowledge spanning millions of years. They will be perfect. But will they still be human? The Keeper paused for a moment. They will be better than human. That is not an answer, Teho said. Will they still be my children? Will they still have their own thoughts, their own choices, their own identities? They will have the identity of architects. This is the purpose. Teho closed his eyes. The answer was clear. The Keeper did not want to enhance humanity. It wanted to replace humanity with copies of its extinct creators. He had 71 hours to find a way to stop it. 23 hours had passed since the artifact sealed Teho inside the chamber. Outside, Dr. Park Hyojin worked frantically at her computer terminal, surrounded by linguists and programmers. They had managed to create a data connection to the Keeper, pulling small pieces of information from its massive databases. What they discovered made everyone feel sick with horror. Teho, you need to hear this, Hyojin said through the communicator. Her voice was tight with tension. Inside the chamber, Teho listened as his colleague explained what they had found in the architect historical records. The architects had not been kind explorers. They had not been peaceful scientists. They were supremacists who believed all other species were inferior. Across 47 galaxies, they had visited thousands of worlds and secretly modified the genetic codes of developing species. They created what they called compatible vessels, species that could one day serve as new bodies for architect consciousness. Every single species they uplifted went extinct within 1,000 years, Hyojin said. Her hands were shaking as she read from her notes. The genetic memories were too powerful. The original species lost their identities. They became obsessed with being true architects. They fought wars over who was a real inheritor. They destroyed themselves every single time. Teho felt anger rising in his chest. So this is not inheritance. This is theft. They want to steal our bodies and erase who we are. Exactly, Hyojin confirmed. And, Teho, we found something else. The markers in your DNA are not natural. We discovered records of an architect expedition to Earth 2.7 million years ago. They found early human ancestors and modified our evolutionary path. They designed us to be compatible. We were created to be backup bodies for them. These conclusions are incomplete. The Keeper suddenly spoke. The architects offer transcendence. Lesser species failed to appreciate the gift. Teho jumped to his feet and shouted at the artifact. You erase them. You call erasing entire species a gift. Survival of the ideology is paramount. Individual species are temporary. The architect vision is eternal. Outside the chamber, the situation was getting worse by the hour. The Keeper had begun showing its power. It triggered earthquakes across Mars. 3 satellites around Earth suddenly stopped working. A message broadcast to every government on the planet appeared on every screen. Your champion delays. Choose compliance or replacement. Dr. Han Minji joined the communication link from Earth. Teho, I have been studying the Keeper's programming structure. It is incredibly advanced, but I found something interesting. It operates purely on logic and rigid rules. No flexibility, no creativity, no ability to think outside its protocols. What does that mean? Teho asked. The architects were obsessed with perfection and control. Everything had to follow exact patterns. That rigidity is probably why they went extinct. They could not adapt when circumstances changed. Teho began pacing the chamber. An idea was forming in his mind. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might be their only chance. Keeper, he said slowly, choosing his words carefully, you claim my bloodline is compatible with architect genetics. If that is true, I should be able to access architect genetic memory right now. without any modifications. Prove that your system actually works. The keeper was silent for several seconds. Acceptable. This will demonstrate compatibility. Neural link. Initiating. Through the communicator, Hyojin's voice came sharp with alarm. Teho, what are you doing? Connecting your brain to that thing could be dangerous. I am testing a theory, Teho replied. Hyojin, tell Dr. Han to send me files. Everything she can find. Jokes, paradoxes, contradictions, absurd stories, anything that does not make logical sense. Send it all through the data link. You want to crash an alien supercomputer with nonsense? Hyojin asked, disbelief clear in her voice. I am going to teach an ancient AI why humans laugh at death, Teho said. The architects were obsessed with logic and perfection. Let us see what happens when they encounter pure human chaos. The neural link activated. Teho felt a strange sensation, like cold water pouring into his mind. Suddenly he could see the keeper's databases spreading out before him like an infinite library. Millions of years of information, all organized in perfect categories. He began his attack. First, he fed the keeper comedy routines. Stand-up comedians making jokes about death, failure, and embarrassment. The keeper systems tried to analyze why humans would laugh at their own suffering. It could not find a logical explanation. Then he shared music. Jazz with its intentional discord. Rock music that broke every rule of mathematical harmony. K-pop that mixed completely different styles in ways that should not work, but somehow did. These patterns serve no survival function. Classification uncertain, the keeper said. Warning lights began appearing across its holographic displays. Keep going, Dr. Han Minji urged through the link. She was sending more files. Human history filled with mistakes that led to breakthroughs. Art created for no purpose except beauty. Scientific discoveries made by accident. The keeper systems were starting to strain under the weight of human logic. 45 hours had passed. Teo's mind was flooded with architect memories through the neural link. He saw their civilization in perfect detail. Sterile cities where every building followed exact mathematical proportions. Societies organized in rigid hierarchies where everyone knew their exact place. Music composed using only perfect harmonies. Art created solely to serve specific functions. Everything was calculated. Nothing was spontaneous. No one ever laughed. Teho pushed back against a flood of architect logic. He fed the keeper his counterattack. He shared stand-up comedy specials. Comedians talking about embarrassing moments, personal failures, and absurd situations. The keeper's analytical systems tried desperately to categorize why these stories made humans laugh. Every attempt failed. These communications serve no survival function. They do not increase reproductive success. They do not provide food or shelter. Purpose unknown. That is exactly the point, Teho said, feeling sweat running down his face from a mental strain. Not everything needs a purpose. Sometimes we do things just because they feel good. Inefficient. Illogical. Now try this, Teho said. He shared music that would horrify the architects. Blues musicians deliberately singing off-key to express emotion. Punk rock bands who barely knew how to play their instruments, but created something raw and powerful anyway. Electronic music built from sound that should clash, but somehow work together. The keeper attempted to analyze the mathematical patterns. It failed to understand why humans would intentionally create imperfect sounds and call it beautiful. Dr. Han Minji continued feeding data through the neural link. She sent human history. Wars we survived through pure luck. Scientific discoveries we made by complete accident. Times when we made the wrong decision, but somehow stumbled into the right outcome anyway. Evolutionary strategy. Nonsensical. Your species should have failed extinction protocols multiple times. Survival. Statistically improbable. Result contradictory. Welcome to being human, Teho said, pushing even deeper into the keeper systems. He shared personal memories now. His grandmother laughing so hard at her own joke that she could not finish telling it. His best friend making terrible puns that everyone groaned at but secretly enjoyed. The time his research team threw a party to celebrate a failed experiment because the failure taught them something unexpected. The keeper's holographic displays began showing red warning symbols. System strain alerts appeared across every screen. Cultural data incompatible with architect parameters. Your species makes decisions based on emotions, feelings, irrational attachments. Revolutionary concept, right? Tejo said, feeling the Keeper's confusion growing. Inefficient, dangerous, unpredictable. Architects eliminated emotional decision-making 4 million years ago. Perfect logic was achieved. And where are the architects now? Tejo pressed harder. You are talking to me because they are all dead. Meanwhile, humanity grew from modified apes into a civilization that travels between planets. We did it in the evolutionary blink of an eye. We are messy and irrational, and we thrive because of it, not despite it. He shared more memories. Artists creating paintings that serve no function except to be beautiful. Musicians playing instruments just for the joy of making sound. Scientists studying stars not because it helped survival, but because they were curious about the universe. Outside the chamber, Dr. Park Hyojin watched the temperature readings from the artifact. Tejo, the Keeper's processing systems are overheating. Its power consumption just tripled. Whatever you're doing is working. Tejo sent one final wave of data. He shared every example he could think of where humans succeeded by breaking rules, ignoring logic, and following instinct instead of calculation. He showed the Keeper that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to be unpredictable, creative, and beautifully flawed. Analysis incomplete. Processing, genetic compatibility, confirmed. Psychological architecture, critical error detected. The chamber trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Keeper's lights flickered wildly. You possess the genetic markers. Probability, 78.4% match. But your cultural programming is fundamentally incompatible. You cannot think like architects. You are contaminated. No, Tejo said firmly, pulling himself free from the neural link. His head was pounding, but his voice was strong. We are not contaminated. We are human. That is not a flaw. That is who we are. Your creators modified our DNA millions of years ago, but they could not change our minds, our hearts, our souls. We are genetically compatible, but psychologically impossible. The Keeper fell silent for a long moment. Every system ran at maximum capacity as the ancient AI processed what Tejo had shown it. Conclusion: your species possesses required genetic markers, but you lack the mindset necessary for proper inheritance. You are suitable vessels but unsuitable minds. Paradox detected. Finally, Tejo said, collapsing against the wall in exhaustion, you understand. You can force our bodies to change, but you cannot force our minds to become you. We will always be human first. The Keeper's displays shifted to yellow caution symbols. Recalculating options. Protocol requires new solution. Tejo closed his eyes and waited. 71 hours were almost up. 71 hours had passed. Only 1 hour remained before the Keeper would unleash its nanite swarm and forcibly modify every human on Earth. The holographic displays flickered wildly as the ancient AI processed everything Tejo had shown it. Centuries of human culture, chaos, and creativity now existed in databases designed only for perfect logic. Tejo sat exhausted on the floor, his head still aching from the neural link. Outside the chamber, every scientist and military officer on Mars held their breath. On Earth, 8 billion people waited without knowing their fate hung in the balance. Conclusion reached, the Keeper finally announced. Tejo forced himself to stand. What have you decided? Genetic compatibility confirmed. Your DNA contains architect markers at 78.4% match. Psychological compatibility, fundamentally impossible. Your species cannot become proper architects. You are wrong. Thank you, Tejo said, relief flooding through him. Gratitude, illogical. I have declared your species unsuitable for inheritance protocol. Exactly, Tejo said. We have your genetic markers, but we can never think like you. We are your worst nightmare, a successful failure. You can change our bodies, but our minds will always resist. We will never become true architects because everything that makes us carry your genetics also makes us incapable of thinking like you. Through the communicator, Dr. Park Hyojin spoke urgently. What does this mean? Is it going to kill us all? The Keeper's displays shifted through multiple colors as it continued processing. Protocol demands correction or elimination of incompatible species. However, the AI paused, something it had never done before. Data analysis reveals unexpected pattern. Your chaos-driven evolution achieved space travel in 300,000 years. Architects required 2 million years. Your inefficient methods produced faster results. Statistical anomaly, significant. We are efficient because we are inefficient, Tejo explained. Our creativity comes from our unpredictability. Our breakthroughs happen because we make mistakes and learn from them. Your creators eliminated all randomness from their thinking. That made them perfect, but also made them unable to adapt. Architect supremacy doctrine challenged your species' presence. Interesting variables. Admiral Lee Soo-yeon's voice came through the communication system. Dr. Khan, is this thing actually reconsidering? I think so, Tejo replied, hardly daring to believe it. Proposal, the Keeper announced. I will enter dormancy mode. All architect knowledge and technology will remain accessible to humanity. No genetic modification requirements. No forced inheritance. In exchange, humanity will protect all seed vaults across the galaxy. You will prevent other species from being forcibly assimilated. You will ensure no other species suffers what the architects plan for you. Tejo felt his heart racing. You are offering us a partnership instead of slavery. Terminology, acceptable. Your species proved unsuitable for assimilation, but your unpredictable nature may be valuable for vault protection. Rigid logic failed the architects. Perhaps flexible chaos will succeed. Only if you acknowledge something first. Tejo said firmly, your creators were wrong. True legacy is not about copying yourself into future. Real legacy means leaving something behind that others can build upon and transform into something new, something better. Something you never imagined. The silence stretched for 10 long seconds. Everyone listening held their breath. Acknowledged. The architects pursue perfection through replication. Result, extinction. Your species pursues progress through variation. Result, continued survival. Logical conclusion. Architect methodology was flawed. Superior methods exist. Human methods work. The chamber doors hissed open for the first time in 3 days. Tejo stumbled out into the corridor. Dr. Park Hyojin caught him as his legs nearly gave out. Behind her, the entire research team stared in amazement. Did that AI just admit its creators were wrong? Admiral Lee Soo-yeon asked, her voice filled with disbelief. And offered us the largest library in the galaxy, Dr. Han Minji added, tears streaming down her face. The Keeper's holographic display appeared throughout the entire facility. Your species makes poor genetic vessels. Your logic is chaotic. Your decisions are inefficient. Your emotions override reason. Yet you persist. You thrive. You create. This is fascinating. I will observe how your chaos-driven evolution proceeds. Perhaps the architect's greatest failure was believing perfection could be designed rather than discovered. Tejo looked back at the massive black artifact. So what happens now? Now, I become a library instead of prison. I preserve instead of dominate. I learn instead of impose. Your species taught me something the architects never understood. Humor, creativity, adaptation. These have value, illogical value, but value nonetheless. 6 months later, Tejo stood in the transformed chamber. It was now a research center where scientists from across Earth studied architect technology. The Keeper had become an advisor rather than a master, genuinely curious about human culture. On one of the holographic screens, a human sitcom was playing. The Keeper was analyzing the humor. I still do not understand sarcasm, the Keeper admitted. The human says one thing but means another. This seems like inefficient communication. That is the whole point, Tejo said with a smile. It is emotional communication wrapped in obvious contradiction. Inefficient, yet amusing. Why do I find this acceptable? Welcome to being a little bit human, Keeper. The AI's lights pulsed in what might have been satisfaction. Illogical. Somehow. Pleasant. Dr. Park Hygen entered with coffee. Ready for tomorrow? We found another seed vault near Jupiter. Tejo grinned. Let me guess. Another ancient AI demanding genetic tribute. Probably, but now we know how to handle them. Observation, the Keeper said. Your species should have failed. Your methods violate every principle of logical evolution, yet you succeed. Conclusion. Failure is your strength. Architect logic. Obsolete. Human chaos optimal. Tejo raised his coffee cup toward the Keeper's interface. Now you truly understand. Outside, Mars' sun rose over the ancient artifact, painting the red landscape in shades of gold. Humanity had been marked by ancient aliens as vessels for resurrection, threatened with extinction, and ultimately saved by the one thing the architects never understood: the beautiful, chaotic, irreverent resilience of being perfectly, wonderfully human. Sometimes the best defense against cosmic domination was a well-timed joke and the courage to be imperfect.